Can you really be addicted to video games? Hi there, everyone. It's Jeff, and this is Plain English, where JR and I help you upgrade your English with current events and trending topics. Today is February 3rd, 2022, and this is lesson number 439. So you can find the full lesson resources at plainenglish.com/439. That, of course, includes the word-for-word transcript that you can use to follow along with the audio. Now, on today's lesson, we'll talk about gaming addiction, the newest official medical diagnosis added to the World Health Organization's Manual of Official Diseases and Disorders. People with gaming addiction are addicted to playing video games, but not everyone agrees that this is a true disease. We'll review the pros and cons in today's lesson. We'll also talk about what it means to put one thing ahead of another thing. And JR has a song of the week. Let's dive in. Video games are entertaining, captivating, sophisticated, and very popular. But are they addictive in a medical sense? For the first time, the World Health Organization has classified gaming disorder as a behavioral addiction in its International Classification of Diseases, or ICD. In other words, people can now be officially and medically addicted to playing games in the same way they can be addicted to alcohol or hard drugs. This is an important development because the WHO manual is used by doctors and insurance companies around the world to identify diseases and disorders, and to provide treatment for them. The WHO is not alone in calling gaming an addiction. China's government also believes gaming is addictive. Clinics treating video gaming addiction are popular in Asia. In August, China's government introduced strict measures to curb teenagers' time spent playing video games. Children age 18 or under are now only allowed to play video games for 1 hour at a time and only on 3 nights per week. Well, what is gaming disorder exactly? It's not necessarily about the amount of time a person spends playing games, but about the effects gaming has on that person's life. To have gaming disorder, according to the WHO definition, a person must be unable to stop playing games even though gaming interferes with other life activities, such as school, work, sleep, and relationships. And the behavior has to continue for a year or more. For years, the word addiction had only been used with physical substances, alcohol, heroin, cigarettes, narcotics, opioids, etc. Addiction to these substances can have a measurable negative impact on a person's physical health. And when users stop using the substance, they suffer symptoms of withdrawal. So far, so clear. But in recent decades, many psychologists have started to think that behaviors, not just substances, but behaviors can be addictive. The best example is gambling. Pathological gambling was the only non-substance addiction included in the WHO manual until now. Like using substances, out-of-control gambling can have severe negative effects on a person's life, causing gamblers to lose their jobs, lose their families, go into debt, and do any number of other self-destructive things. But video games are controversial. The scientific community is split on whether video games and other behavioral addictions like exercise, shopping, and eating, whether all those should be classified as addictions. I'll give you the arguments for and against classifying gaming as an addiction. First, the arguments in favor. Gaming is an addiction because, like gambling or alcoholism, users crave additional time gaming, and they put that ahead of other things that they know they should be doing. Users know their habit is not healthy, and they know it is self-destructive, but they can't stop themselves. While it's true there are no physical symptoms, and while you can't go bankrupt playing video games, gamers suffer all the same. They can become isolated, they have difficulty forming relationships, and they lose a lot of time. Losing time to an addiction is just as bad, if not worse, than losing money in, say, a casino. What's more, recent advances have given scientists a better understanding of what happens in the brains of people addicted to behaviors. Everyone's brain releases pleasure chemicals like dopamine and serotonin when we engage in pleasurable behaviors. But that process is disordered in people who suffer from gaming addiction. They get an abnormal amount of these chemicals when playing video games. They get so much that when they stop gaming, they crave more. But there are two compelling arguments against classifying video games as a medical disorder. The first is about the definition. Almost anything can be classified as an addiction if it interferes with a person's life. many people engage in pleasurable activities to relax or to distract themselves from other things in life. One psychologist performed an experiment with tango dancers. He tweaked the definition of gaming addiction and asked tango dancers about their tango habit. He found that 40% of the dancers would be addicted to tango dancing if they followed the same criteria as gaming addiction. Now, he didn't mean to argue that tango dancing is an addiction. Instead, his argument is that the definition of gaming disorder is too loose. Where do you stop? What makes video gaming an addiction, but not tango dancing or thousands of other activities? The other argument against classifying gaming as an addiction goes like this. The behavior is not the disease, it's the symptom. According to this argument, people who engage in compulsive video gaming are definitely doing harm to themselves. But they do this because they have other disorders like depression or anxiety, and those disorders are already classified in the WHO manual. Now, this is an argument for the doctors to sort out. In the meantime, though, gaming companies aren't doing themselves any favors by making their games increasingly more complex and social. They also employ the same psychological tactics as casinos to keep their users engaged for more time. Video game makers increasingly make money not from upfront purchases, but from in-game purchases. So they have every incentive to keep their users in front of the screen for as long as possible. I didn't grow up playing video games, and I don't play them now. I had to look up the names of the most popular video games, and I only recognized Fortnite. And the only reason I recognized that name is because of their lawsuit against Apple and the App Store lately. So apparently, it's a lot different than when we used to play games that came in a cartridge. So back then, each game would have a certain number of levels, and you'd reach the objective at each level. And at a certain point, you'd finish the game. After reaching the highest level, it was no longer fun. But today, a lot of games are not objective-based, they're creativity-based. So instead of trying to reach a level, you create your own experience, and it can be constantly renewed and refreshed. So there's basically no end. I'd be interested in trying one, so if you are a gamer, give me a few suggestions on games I can play on a PC. I'm not buying a gaming console, but tell me a game you think I could play on a normal PC and I'll try it out. So send your suggestions my way to Jeff, Jeff, at plainenglish.com. Today's English expression is all about priorities. What is important and what is not? And the expression we use to describe priorities is put ahead of. So what does it mean to put something ahead of something else? It simply means you give one thing a higher priority than other things. In today's main lesson, you heard that people who suffer from gaming addiction put video games ahead of other priorities in their lives, such as personal relationships, work, school, exercise, sleep, diet, and other things. They put video games ahead of everything else. And what that means is they give video games a higher priority. They make video games more important than those other things. Now, it doesn't mean that people suffering from gaming addiction don't sleep, don't eat, don't have families, don't work, don't exercise, whatever. It simply means that they give their gaming a higher priority. When they could be exercising, they're playing video games. When they could be interacting with friends and family, they're playing video games. They give these games a higher priority. They dedicate more time to the games. They put video games ahead of these other priorities. So we use this expression when there are multiple things we could be focusing on, but we have to give one thing the highest priority. Work and family are two priorities that are often in tension. You sometimes hear people say they want to put their family ahead of their careers, meaning that they want to make their family time a higher priority. It doesn't mean that they don't work, just that their family time is more important. Other people may decide to put their careers ahead of starting a family if they're young. Many couples delay having kids until their early or even mid-30s. They do this so they can put their careers ahead of any family obligations early on. Then, once they've achieved certain things at work, their priorities can change. For kids, school and athletics are sometimes competing priorities. In my house, when I was a kid, we had to put school ahead of sports or other after-school activities. I was certainly encouraged to be active and be involved in a lot of activities, but I had to put studying ahead of those other things. I could do them both, but schoolwork had to be a higher priority. Now, you may have guessed that I was not a star athlete, but some kids have a good shot at going to the Olympics or being a professional athlete. They sometimes put athletics ahead of studying. It's really the only way to dedicate the time to get good enough at a sport at a young age. Again, It doesn't mean that they don't study. It just means their athletic career is more important. That comes first, and they work private classes and tutors in around their training schedule. In business, you might have two priorities: get new customers and take care of your existing customers. If you find that a lot of customers are unhappy, you might have to put customer service ahead of new customer acquisition for a while. Governments have to maintain a lot of critical infrastructure, from the electrical grid to roads to railways. Politicians like to create new projects. They like taking the credit for splashy new things. But sometimes it's best to put maintenance of existing infrastructure ahead of new projects. That means maybe it's best to put more money and time toward maintaining what we have instead of creating something new. That's not always the case, but it is sometimes. JR's song of the week is Somewhere Only We Know by Keen. It's about a hidden place that two people can go and be authentic with each other. One of the band members put it this way: it's about being able to draw strength from a place or experience that you've shared with someone. He said, it's an idea that a lot of people can relate to. One of the lines in the song is, I knew the pathway like the back of my hand, which means he knew it very well. So thank you, JR, for selecting that song this week, Somewhere Only We Know by Keen. And here we are, finished with another week together at Plain English. The good news is there's always more coming next week, every Monday and Thursday. JR and I have never missed a lesson in all these years. We've been a few hours late releasing them a couple of times, not recently, but years ago. We're on a pretty good roll now. You can count on these new lessons being released early morning in the Americas every Monday and Thursday. Well, it's February now, so I want to extend a special welcome to all of the new members who joined Plain English Plus in January this year. We've had members join from Mexico, Brazil, Hungary, Taiwan, Japan, China, Spain, Italy, South Korea, India, Argentina, Ukraine, Poland, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, Russia, Switzerland, and the United States, and that was just in January. So one thing I really love is how we have members from all over the world who enjoy Plain English Plus, and I cannot wait to get to know you better in the forums, on our live calls, and through all your practice examples that I read every week. So congratulations and welcome once again to all the new Plus members from around the world. And if you're not yet a member of Plain English Plus, you can always join by visiting plainenglish.com/plus, PLUS. See you next time.